Welcome to this week's episode of the Jewish Diaspora Report. On this week's episode, I'm talking about why I'm getting the heck out of here. Let's get started. I have to apologize for the beginning of this podcast having such a clickbait title. I couldn't help myself. In the age of social media and online, I had to make it seem a little bit more dramatic. But this week's episode, I am going to talk about me getting out of here in a manner of speaking. I'm not fleeing my diaspora country because of the increase in anti-Semitism and how the governments around the world are not taking anti-Semitism seriously. Although many people around the world are currently doing that and heading to Israel. I too am heading to Israel, but not forever, unfortunately. I have been keeping this situation sort of under wraps for the past couple of months because I wasn't 100% sure that I'd be doing it. And with all of the uncertainty going on in the Middle East right now, with Lebanon and so on, I wasn't sure if it was going to happen, and I really didn't want to get my hopes up or tell any of my listeners that it was going to happen, and then things kind of fell through. But it is officially happening. As of next weekend, I'm going to be in Israel. I'm going to be in the Holy Land. I'm going to be in Jerusalem and Tel Aviv, back to my home and many of your homes. And I'm hoping many of my listeners have actually been there themselves. If not, I definitely think you should go. It is life-changing as a Jewish person and even a non-Jewish person to go. But I'm not really going on a vacation to go and sit on the beach, although I'll try to do that a little bit when I get there. I'm also not going for religious reasons to go to the Western Wall and pray and all of that stuff, but I definitely will be doing that. I'm going for a very unique reason and for a very unique mission, we'll call it. I'm heading to Israel in order to bear witness and be a voice and an educator for the October 7th massacre and what had happened, along with what's currently going on in Israel today. I'm joining a group of a number of other educators in order to tour all of the sites that you've probably all seen on the news and on social media, the kibbutzim where people were murdered, the Nova Festival, and many other places, including speaking to survivors, families of hostages, and people who have been displaced either from the south near the kibbutzim or from the north, which is dealing with an extensive amount of rocket fire coming from Lebanon, which you never hear about on the news, unfortunately. Many of them are living in hotels in Tel Aviv, just temporarily, or what was supposed to be temporarily, but unfortunately has been about 9 months of them living with a whole family in a hotel room without any of their belongings, no school for their kids, nothing. So on this little mission we are doing, we are going to get to go see it, bear witness, hear these testimonies, and my hope is that I'm going to be taking you along with me. I want really for my listeners to understand what's going on, see the images, hear what I have to say about these things, and hopefully be a little bit closer than just the stuff you see on social media. Many of my listeners have been with me for quite a while, and I'm hoping that maybe my voice and my eyewitness can actually provide you with a little bit more trusted information, a little more firsthand, even if technically you can't be there. I'm going to try and give you an open and honest opinion of what I'm seeing, show you direct photos, nothing's going to be edited, anything like that. And I'm hoping that it'll allow you in a way to visit with me. That's kind of my hope for this mission. But in addition to that, I'm definitely hoping that when I come back, I'll be able to do a much more thorough debrief of what's going on, what I saw, how I felt, be able to bring this to a lot more people through the podcast, as well as my educational career, things like that. And I know it's going to be tough for me. You know, it's been really tough for the last 8-9 months to be sitting here in the diaspora, not being able to go and help and be with my people in a time of complete chaos and tragedy and hurt and them needing us more than ever. I talk to my Israeli friends and they tell me, you're doing what you can over there. You've got your podcast, you're educating people, you're kind of holding down the fort where you are. We'll hold the fort down where we are. It took every ounce of strength. Honestly, I looked up flights the day after October 7th to not get on a plane and head to Israel and say, please, let me do something. Whether it's fight, whether it's help out in the army bases, fold laundry, peel potatoes, it really didn't matter. I felt like it was my duty as an able-bodied Jewish person to go to Israel and support those people who are putting their lives on the line for all of us. And I couldn't. Unfortunately, due to my career, I couldn't get out. This is the first opportunity I've had to get a chance to go, and I'm going, even if it's going to be tough. But in addition to the October 7th stuff that I'm definitely going to show you guys, I also want to show you many things that we talk about on this podcast. I'd love to show you guys pictures and videos of things like non-apartheid Israel and the beauty of Israel and the amazing things that Israel has to offer that I talk about all the time. But with the podcast, it's kind of just words. I'm hoping that those of my listeners who only hear me through words will be able to go onto our social media and experience the day-to-day life of Israel as I see it with my own eyes, because hopefully it'll give you more of an insight of the media spin that you're hearing about Israel. And I hear all the time from people saying, I don't want to go, it's so dangerous. Hopefully I'll get to be able to show you guys the real face of Israel, the one not seen through the typical media. And hopefully it'll be a little bit more believable coming from me, unedited and right from my phone. So one thing I want to tell all of my listeners, aside from if you don't follow us on jdr.podcast on Instagram, please do immediately. Go on your phone, make sure you follow, because all of my stuff I'm going to be putting, photos, things like that, please go on there so you can keep up to date with all the photos and things that I'm sending. I also want to warn all of my listeners that, unfortunately, being away, I won't have the access to my podcast studio, and therefore, unfortunately, I won't be able to podcast at all, or possibly as well as I normally do. So with that said, I'm going to try really hard to maybe use my phone or my computer that I have there in order to use the crummy microphone that's built into the systems. If I'm able to upload clips or little segments, it won't be a long full episode with music and things like that. I will try my best to keep you guys up to date with various episodes, maybe just on the Sunday or possibly more often. But I can't guarantee that because I don't know what time I'm going to have. I don't know what ability I'm going to have to share everything and get it online. So I do apologize that it's possible that there might not be a podcast for the next 2 weeks as I'm away in Israel and visiting all these sites. So again, for those of you who maybe want to hear and see what's going on the ground more currently than waiting 2 weeks for me to get back, please go online and follow at jdr.podcast, and you'll hopefully get a lot more updates on there because it's a lot easier to quickly post those things rather than an entire podcast. I am a little bit nervous about this situation. I don't know how I'm going to feel currently going to these unfortunate, terrible sites, places like the Nova Festival, with the knowledge that people were mass murdered in this spot. And I kind of liken it, I guess, to the idea of going to the sites of the Holocaust, which I have also done to not only bear witness, but also to educate young people on these sites. Walking through Auschwitz, I have an episode on that. You can look back to one of the earlier podcasts we have done, walking in my grandmother's footsteps in Auschwitz. I feel like it is so important to go and actually witness it with my own eyes. So that way I can say I was there. I can see it. I can smell it. I can really tell people what I experienced there. Because in this age of, I hate to say misinformation, which there's tons of it, you're able to actually say, I was there. Not, I saw some videos online, which I know unfortunately is going to be your situation, but you can see for yourself what happened. I'm a relatively young person, so I've got, hopefully, God willing, many years ahead of me that I'll be able to share this experience with future generations. As an educator, I'll be able to say, I was there. I witnessed it. It did happen. Because unlike the Holocaust, which took about 40 or 50 years before people openly and broadly just said it never happened, or it never happened the way people were saying, this is actually like, 24, 48 hours. All of a sudden, people were saying that this October 7th attack never happened. It didn't happen the way they said it happened. It took no time for people to essentially just say it never happened. So it is incumbent on people like me as educators and podcasters to make sure that I can say I was there. So I can forever hold that thought and that memory of what it was like to be there. So people can't say it never happened. Ending this podcast on a little bit of a happier note, hopefully, is the fact that I'm excited to go back to Israel. It has been sadly far too long due to COVID. Unfortunately, the last time I was in Israel was in 2020, and COVID hit, and unfortunately everything got shut down, and I haven't had a chance to go back yet. So this will be the first time back after almost every summer being there multiple times, leading educational trips for young people, old people. And it allowed me to be in my home and be back there and educate people, which is my passion, as you know. So going there again is bittersweet. After October 7th, things have changed. The country itself has changed. It's currently still at war with multiple fronts. The people of Israel are really struggling in many ways, as you'll hear in some of my older podcasts, especially in my interview with Hadara Arbel, who told us about what people are dealing with in the current situation. But I feel like I need to be there. As a Jewish person who supports the state of Israel, who will put his life on the line for Israel if asked, not that they want me, but I need to be there. And I'm going, and I'm taking you with me. In the end, I'm heading to Israel, and I'm out of here. And I'm nervous, and I'm excited, and I'm happy to take you with me, in a manner of speaking. I'm really hoping I'll be able to podcast from there, and I'll be able to experience things with you. You'll be able to see what I'm seeing, hear what I'm hearing, but I'm not sure if it'll work. We'll see. Worst case scenario, I'll be back in 2 weeks, and I'll have plenty to talk about in our first episode. Either way, I'm going to give you a debrief if I do podcast from Israel or if I don't, with a more formal and full description of what I experienced while I was there. I appreciate everybody's support, everyone who has been with the podcast for a very long time listening. I recently checked out our analytics and realized that we have been heard on pretty much every single continent of the earth, which is such a crazy thing as I speak into this microphone in a podcast studio and have no idea who half of you people are. All I see is country and city. It's amazing to think about how many people listen to this podcast and hopefully are getting things from this podcast. And I think this most recent trip is really going to give people something special and out of the ordinary. It's not going to be just commentary from afar, but we're actually going to go to these sites and we're going to see it together. I'll see you in 2 weeks, if not sooner. This has been another episode of the Jewish Diaspora Report. Don't forget to check us out on social media at jdr.podcast and check out some of our other episodes on your favorite podcast source. We'll see you next time.